Hi everyone, and welcome to the Bold Business Diaries. I'm your host, Connie, and this is the home of authentic stories of a two-time startup founder, and as well as other people's stories as they build their businesses, especially at an early stage. Today we'll be talking about exposure. Is it theory? Therapy. Oh my goodness. Stick around to find out what that is and how it helped me to overcome some of the fears I've been going through this half of the year as a business owner.
What does exposure therapy mean to you?
It's a behavioral kind of correction where you expose yourself to the thing you're afraid of, but in a controlled way so that you can face that fear and just start correcting behaviorally. It's used to correct anxiety most especially. Yeah.
Before attending these events, what were you afraid of when it came to putting yourself out there?
I was afraid of rejection because of the thought that, okay, maybe what I have to offer isn't that important. It's not that useful. So it's the fear that I have this thing I want to give. I have this story. I have this journey I've been on, and I want to share it, but you also are scared that it won't be received well or altogether not received and rejected. So that's one of the fears. And another one is actually the fear that I will be seen trying. And this is a very strange fear. In fact, I got the words for it more recently when I saw it in a quote on IG and I placed it and I felt, oh my goodness, this is a very valid fear. The fear of being seen as you're trying. Because at that time, you're not sure you'll succeed fully. You're not sure if you'll, go through some hiccups or something will go wrong and it will be public. It will be in the public eye. So that was another fear. The last one, though, it's not pretty much related to others, but it's a fear of occupational loneliness, or something we could also call the solopreneur anxiety of there's no one else. It's just you and the business, and you're working towards it day in, day out. When you pop your head up above the laptop, there's no one else on the other side. It's just you. So there is this lack of a sense of community that was building a kind of fear that I really wanted to address and to go out there and meet people, and face this fear.
Why was it important for you to face these fears, not take the shortcut?
I think living in fear is very seductive. It has this thing about it where there's a comfortability and you'd rather be safe. But I was seeing over and over in the books I'm reading, when I scroll online, I could see severally that the comfort zone is the dead zone. It's where dreams die. It's kind of cute, it's comfortable, but in the slow fade of staying there is where you start losing some aspects of your dreaming journey. And I'm very big on the concept of dreaming, like if you hear me speak quite a bit, you'll hear that the statement preserving dreamers, dreaming with God, is something that is core to my life. So when I heard this statement over and over, I felt challenged enough and uncomfortable enough to go into more uncomfortability. And I remember in one of the events that I went to in this period of time was the Youth Plus Africa. And Vusi was speaking and he asked us, you need to understand your tolerance for pain. We were talking about how much bandwidth do you have to go through uncomfortability to get to where you want to be or who you want to become. So I felt in pursuit of that growth, that elevation, going to that version of me, I would need to address these fears, or else I'd remain small or comfortable with these things that want to keep me small or stagnant or safe and comfortable. What it feels to be rejected, that has happened quite a bit in my entrepreneurial journey. It's the act of just simply even sending a proposal and someone actually altogether ignoring it, or while listening to it, they're not interested and they put it off and you have to go to the next one and the next one. That happens quite a bit. Maybe it's as simple as even in the events. In order for me to actually speak in some of them, I was asking for the seat at the table. This is, for example, with the SME Hangout by Wild Digital. I had to ask to be featured because I wanted to tell my story. She could have said no. Victoria could have told me, we're full, there's no one in the lineup, we can't have you. And there have been other events I have done the same thing. I've asked to be a panelist, a speaker, or to share my story, and there was no response. And it felt it can easily feed the fear. It can feed the fear that, you see, no one is responding on the other side, or your proposal is not compelling enough, or you don't have the value that they're looking for you to add. There could be so many reasons someone is saying no to you, but the feeling is that you get this moment where your voices, the critic, oh my goodness, the critic in you begins to speak. And other critic voices that you've heard, or someone threw a negative word at you, this is a very sensitive time for those words and those critic comments to start rising up from nowhere, because there's an opportune chance to put you down with those statements. So it usually feels to me like a battlefield, but in the mind. And that's my chance to either take on those thoughts and go with them and end up in a spiral or a rabbit hole, or to just think on to the next one. This was a no, but it doesn't mean the next one will be. And even if it is, I have something, I have a vision. There's somewhere I want to go. There's something I want to do. I see myself somewhere speaking, pouring into others, and I want to pursue that. Whew.
What does being seen trying look like for you and for your business?
Interesting. For me, looks like putting yourself out there even when you don't feel perfectly ready. So I remember even with my first exhibition this year for Virtually Yours, which is one of the businesses that I am a founder of. I hadn't exhibited before. So I don't have experience. My mind, when looking for proof that I can do it, it's not finding it, right? The mind is looking for proof that, okay, yeah, let's do it. So not finding the proof in my experiences felt like, okay, there's no evidence that you've succeeded in this. So chances are you can also fail. But putting myself out there has meant going after things, even when you don't feel perfectly ready, because I'm not sure we're ever fully 100% ready, especially if you're a perfectionist. You will want everything to be in order. You want everything to be clean. You know, you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's, and now you are ready to be seen trying. But for me at that time, I remember printing my marketing materials 3 days before the event. I remember deciding 3 days before the event. I remember printing the banner just then and allowing it to look how it looked on first impression. And it even caused me to ask for support from my friend to come with me on that day, because I realized it doesn't have to be perfect, but it can be good. I can learn from it. There's this quote, you make it good first, then you'll make it perfect. I think it's been looking like showing up, not 100%, even 90%, even 80%, right? It's looked like doing this, the Bold Business Diaries, thinking that there are other founders like me, entrepreneurs, who need to know they're not alone. You know, all this that's happening in our world, in our bubble, or so to say, someone else is experiencing. I think it means asking for help and being seen, asking for help. That's a hard one. So it also means investing, being seen investing, especially in a brand. Someone is seeing you trying to put something together, to start speaking in a certain way, showing up in a certain way. That's visible. That stuff is felt. I don't know if you have someone in your mind who you felt immediately when they were building a brand, or they were more serious about their brand, for example. You could feel that, right? Their intentionality told you. So that's you seeing someone else trying. It's scary, but I have this very safe space I've been building within myself to tell me, you are worth that investment. I am worth seeing that growth after a couple of weeks, months, years of thinking that I want to give this way, I want to contribute this way, I want to create this way. So the thing that pushes me is how proud I'll be if I genuinely invest in, building that way.
Now let's get into the meaty part of this video. Talk to us about your turning points and how each of your choice, each of the events, how did they actually help you address these fears?
Wow. Since February, right now we're in June. We're shooting in June. It's been 4 months since February. And I think these have been like 7 events. And even as we speak, business events mostly. even as we speak, there's one I'm preparing for. But the ones that helped me to overcome my fears the most, I'll start with the fear of occupational loneliness, just being a solopreneur, feeling like you're in this bubble of yours, you're alone. Was the VA workshop series that I did in partnership with American Konamtani, who were very gracious to do this with me. That event, where do I even start? It really taught me the value of community, that when you reach out, someone else is reaching out too. And that meeting point is divine. So that fear of being alone, when I came out, I think virtual assistants especially, we work from home, we are so comfortable in that space. It's only after a matter of time you start realizing, wait, do I even remember how to speak with people, even how to network? You're so comfortable behind the screen, right? So meeting others who are also experiencing a similar kind of work life, or they want to work remote, or they dream of remote, was very interesting. The stories of others, they really poured into me more than I expected. I thought I was going to give only, but the amount of receivership that was happening in that space. And I'll share that it wasn't all nice stories. It was also painful stories, and realizing that, okay, we share in one aspect, we are going through pain as we pursue something that we want to pursue, a shift we want to have in our life. Maybe it's financial freedom or stability, or you want to enter the digital economy, you want to penetrate, maybe it's the international market. So as we're all doing that, we experience low points, and sharing in those moments of pain in a room full of people who are going through something similar reminded me the importance of community. And then it also helped me to go beyond the fear of being alone. That fear is exactly that. It's a fear. You actually are not alone. If I reach out, I'll find Ruth there. And we'll talk about how, oh my goodness, toxic clients. Why, like if I reach out and I call, like very recently, a VA friend of mine, Zilani, like I reach out and I find out we can talk about our work experiences. We can support each other and do all that. So I think that was a very major one. Another turning point I have apart from that one, the Nairobi Startup Summit, where I got to be a curtain-raising speaker, and I was teaching on delegation. So a turning point that I experienced was that, and in all of the events, I noticed there's an aspect that you would receive a curveball, and you need to deal with it on the spot. So for example, with this one, I remember the time that I was given to speak was rather, it was brief. And still I appreciated it, but I understood I have a few minutes to communicate what I need to. And this moment required me to really have self-belief. If I doubted myself, I really believe I would have talked myself out of the opportunity. So self-belief is so important, and it can be felt even across the room, that someone else can feel you believe in what you're doing. You actually are your first audience. You spoke to yourself and you agreed, you and you, this thing matters. This thing is important. This thing is beautiful. So I remember being challenged so much to have that self-belief and to give that so that it's received that way. And even with the same event, I realized that that event introduced me to so many opportunities, and it affirmed to me that it does pay off to put yourself out there. I think when we push ourselves and we do something we wouldn't have, or that we don't know what will happen, once we know what will happen, it'll give us the confidence or the bravado to do it again. And that event gave me the courage to do it again. I didn't go in knowing it would do that. So uncertainty, we are going to experience it, but you need to take the risk. And that was my turning point for the Nairobi Startup Summit specifically.
People say everything good lies on the other side of fear. When you look in retrospect, how has that actually brought about the breakthroughs you've had? And if not, if you're in the process of one, how does that look like?
I love that statement, and I think it's true. Maybe I'll share with you from someone else's story in my story. So there's an event I went to, Candid Conversations by Kayana. It's actually where we're shooting. And this Candid Conversations had a theme, which was the gift of rejection. And I remember being so moved by one of the panelists. All the panelists were amazing, my goodness. And it was so humbling to hear their stories of rejection. But when Hanifa spoke, she shared quite a bit on how it has been difficult for her to do what she needed to do in order to stand up for someone else, to stand up for those people who are receiving the unfair end of the state of affairs in the country. She called us and she mobilized us to give towards a worthy cause, right? But she was able to share that in between all that was also the messiness of putting yourself out there, of being eyed by, public institutions, and being, attacked even for her voice, literally being silenced, attempted to be silenced. And when she was sharing that, I realized that, do we usually understand what our heroes go through? That part before they actually, charge with their horse or lift their sword. Do we know what happens before that? Because they are most likely pushing past quite a bit of fear, but something else matters more than the fear. There's a faith somewhere that is superseding that fear. And we are on the other side of people like Hanifa and what they choose to do when they overcome that fear, or they go with a stronger force like faith or love in a moment. And I think you can agree with me that we have been on this other end of our heroes. I'm thinking quite politically right now, so because I know what we're going through in our country in different aspects. We are on this other side of people who have not been silenced, used their voices, and we have felt empowered to the point that even us, we are going to lift our voice. And at this time where our country is that we are really moving away from the culture of silence and being quieted about what we have to say. So I would say that statement is real. Thank you, Hanifa, for sharing that, because it made me realize that there is quite a worthy cause on the other side of faith and love, especially those two. Justice. Oh my goodness. Faith, love, justice, that are worth you walking the plank, going through the valley of the shadow of death to see a brighter day. Even though it will be painful, there's quite the reward on the other side. To say that you lived, you used your voice, you did not quiet down, you started that thing that was in your heart, whether it's a business, it's a venture, a relationship, anything, you stepped out and the reward spoke back to you. Yeah, that statement is real.
Talk to someone who's hiding behind their fear.
Number one, I've been there. I might be there even in other aspects of my life, right? To you, I would tell you two things. One may feel harsh, and that statement is get over yourself. Wait, before you throw rocks at me, get over yourself. What I mean with that statement is your voice is so needful, your gift is so purposeful, your presence is so powerful. In the self-doubt, in the fear, in the hiding, there's someone who's missing out on that, on you. Literally, the gift that is you. When God decided there must be a you in this universe, and this is what they will mean to the world, to their community, to their family, even just close by. You don't have to think the world, even close by. You had to exist. So you had to have these dreams and desires that you have, the burdens that you have in your heart, the ideas you have in your head. So get over yourself, because beyond you, there are others who are just waiting to experience from you and to receive from you. In fact, there's a gap in their life before you walked in. And then the other thing I would say is, when you spend time alone, I hope you can start building a love for yourself, an appreciation for who you are, an appreciation for what you do. Because even when you put yourself out there, you will meet people who don't like what you have to say. They don't care as well. And that's okay, right? Not everyone has to like or care about what you have to say. Most of the time you have a message for specific people. So if you can, I love this quote that says, success is loving what you do and how you do it. If you can develop that safety between you, and then you go out into the world, I believe there's a skin you're building to be able to face things like people who are trying to put you down, people who don't see what you see, your dream, your vision, that thing you want to build. They don't see where you're going with it. To them, you look like Noah and the ark. You're looking like a fool. But it doesn't mean you're one. In fact, maybe that time will come when they're the fool, quote unquote. But long story short, I hope you can take time to build a relationship between you and you, where you are your first audience, and you can manage to clap for yourself. You can manage to hug yourself. You can manage to say, well done. This is good. This is good, you know? That's gonna go a long way, guys. Take it from me. Now when I look back and I see that not everyone, you know, is for what you have and for what you carry. That was it. That's the exposure therapy that I put myself into by a 4-month kind of marathon of being in events, speaking, doing public speaking, attending, meeting other people, because those fears that I had and have, I did not want to keep having them. I wanted to see what's on the other side of the fear of occupational loneliness or that solopreneur anxiety. I wanted to know what's beyond the fear of rejection, the rejection of my story or what I do or what I have to give. And also the fear of being seen trying, you know, publicly failing, you know, publicly succeeding, but as well publicly failing. It has been a marathon. There's so much I would love to share with you from all those other events. They gave me gems that I do not regret. And I hope you can also get out of your comfort zone. Do that thing you've been afraid to do that's in line with where you want to go. Stretch yourself. I hope I'll get to hear the story of how it went for you. But that was it for this episode of the Bold Business Diaries. See you in the next one.